Saya sudahi dengan serangkap pantun kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Kita berdoa, kita berharap dan kita berdoa semoga sempurna segala usaha, semoga berjaya, semoga sempurna segala kerja, semoga berjaya segala usaha. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat berseminar.
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Zawawi Ismail, for the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are all geared up for our program today. But I would like first to recognize and acknowledge our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Bambang Sumintono. We are pleased to have you here as our guest speaker, Doctor. Thank you for your time to enlighten us today with your topic. Next, we shall proceed with our keynote speaker, the Honorable Dr. Bambang Sumintono, who will deliver the topic entitled The Rush Model as a Construct Validation Tool. Please welcome.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Okay, very good morning all. Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So thank you very much for the Dean for coming speech for this KP seminar. Dr. Haris as head department and Dr. Asmawati as head of CEPATS, okay, and all the committee members that make this function as happening this morning, right? Okay, so this morning I would like to share something about regard to psychometrics field of science. So this is actually my passion in the last 7 years. Okay, my background is actually educational administration. When I was work as a lecturer in Malaysia, one student come to me and asked me to become her supervisor, and her special request that I have to guide her in terms of instrument testing and instrument development. That was, I think, 8 years ago when I was working in University Technology Malaysia. After that, I'm working here in University Malaya, and then the situation is a bit changed, so I'm more active in terms of sharing this kind of knowledge, and then trying to what we call as inform the students, especially that testing the instrument is something that crucial, something that need to be done correctly, okay, in order to make that the finding of the study or the research is something that really worth it and capable to publish, especially in international journal, right? So this morning I would like to share a bit about Rush model. Just a kind of initial conversation, how we actually see about the context of validation, right? Okay. So there are 4 parts that I will share today, this morning. Okay. The first one is what we understand actually about human measurement. Actually, we are trying to understanding measuring something hidden, measuring something latent, not particularly related to the physical properties. The second part, I just want to introduce you what actually is the Rush model. It's a kind of mathematical model that tries to measure something hidden from human. Okay, and then we will discuss about the validation issue. And this is a crucial thing that the what we call as what scientists, authors, and science are really understand about validation is evolved. It is not stagnant. What we understand about validation in 1950s keep changing up to now, right? And then the last one is how we utilize RAS model in terms of doing the construct validation, right? The first one is when we are talking about human measurement, this is something cannot be denied, cannot be what we call as something that happen when we are doing research in social sciences. We deal with human. There is two things that we have to understand. When we measure something from human, there are aspects that we can measure using physical properties instrument, like what we call is height, weight, volume, temperature. So for this part, we don't have any problem because we can rely instrument from physics, right? So like when we want to measure height, how tall is a person? So we can rely on what we call like ruler centimeter, right? So no problem when we deal with physical properties measurement. What's something difficult there is how we measure something hidden, how we measure something latent. This is our business actually, okay? We as a teacher, we as researcher, when we try to measure something from human, it is not similar quality like what we have in physical properties, right? So there are two types of non-physical properties with something hidden, something latent. The first one, we call it cognitive ability. So we cannot measure somebody is smart or not only looking by observation. Okay, because observation tend to be biased. Observation tend to be subjective. Okay, when we are looking to the person with glasses, for example, wearing tie, for example, we consider the person smart, for example. But that is something we think is a bias. We think that it is subjective. Okay, so everybody can wearing glasses and then have a jacket with tie, but not all those people are considered smart in any intelligent test, right? The second aspect is something that we deal with psychological properties, okay, which is about non-cognitive aspect. We try to measure something like attitude, opinion, and perception, okay? Non-physical is always problematic since the science try to understand how we actually measure that perfectly. And all social sciences try to, what we call, try to mirror what really happening in physical sciences. Is it when we measure smartness of the people similar like we measure temperature, for example? Okay, it is not the same quality. And why measuring non-physical properties is important? Because we will decide what we call the quality of people. We will decide about what happens next. Okay, so for example, we will discuss about who will fail, who will pass. Who will get scholarship, who will not get scholarship, who will pass the selection, for example, or increase in terms of grade, that kind of thing. So it's become so important when we deal with the non-physical properties, right? Okay. This is what we call an example in terms of what we call non-cognitive aspect. When we ask a consumer to rate about the quality of the public service, in this case is the toilet at the airport, Okay, so if we look at this, okay, there is no such thing as numbers, right? All just smiley face. From the left, worst situation, to the right, best situation. Okay, so what actually we try to measure is something hidden, something latent that we cannot sure that the same smiley face like this will have the same perception to all the people who choose this situation, right? So because we are dealing with something hidden, we are dealing with something latent, non-observable, okay? That is about the perceptions of the quality of the public service, okay? Is, for example, much more a bit different situation. Trying to get confirmation regarding about the quality of the instrument. Okay, so to get that, so they ask expert to rate about the quality of item. So this is an example. For example, the item statement is COVID-19 is a viral infectious disease. Okay, and then what happened? The expert being asked with 4 criteria. Okay, is it the statement plausible to the topic? So it is about the content of the topic itself. And this one, is it relevant? Is it clear? And it is something that, in terms of language, it is okay. So okay. And then there are 3 choices. So this is also relating to the what we call as measuring opinion. Expert opinion from one the others want to make sure that it is showing a good quality of item. Right? So what is the reason? Oh, excellent. Okay, what is the reason we need to ask expert? Because this is relating, I think, this is relating to get confirmation about the quality of the item itself. Okay, and of course we know that measuring from the reliability is not enough. Okay, we also have to make sure that it has consistency, it doesn't have bias, anything, right? So basically, when we doing instrument testing, we are belong to the group what we call as applying quantitative method, right? So in quantitative, we divided with qualitative in terms of what type of data that we analyze. In quantitative, we just only interested in terms of numbers, right? And then in qualitative, we are playing with words, thematic analysis, coding, content analysis, that kind of thing, right? So when we analyze numbers, actually we are doing it from beginning with identifications of variable, right? So we have to understand what kind of variable we want to measure from human being. Okay, we want to analyze about mathematics understanding or speaking in foreign language, right? Or opinion regarding tax regime, for example. That is what we call dealing with the variables. Okay, so the first part, we have to identify what is the variable that we want to measure. Okay, and then the next step is, if we got the identification of the variable, how we measure that. Okay, in terms of how we measure that, so we need instrument. Okay, so if you want to test about mathematical understandings for the secondary school student, for example, so you prepare the test item that asking about certain topics in mathematics, right? So when you want to measure about patriotism, for example, so you develop the item asking about patriotism to your respondent. Right. So when we try to measure the variable, then what really happen? We have to make sure that the variable in the instrument itself reliable and valid. Right. So that is the starting point that we try to beginning to understand about the result of measurement. Okay. So actually, RAS model only playing at the second stage. They are not playing at the first stage. The first stage, we are dealing with the every what we call expertise that you have, right? Are you measuring financial security, for example? Are you measuring financial literacy? So this is about definition, conceptualization, right? The second part is how RAS model can help, which is testing the instrument, okay, and also most likely in terms of getting the data. When you got the data, because you already have the instrument to be used, then we move to the third one, which is about what we call as the inferential statistic. Okay, so RAS model are not part of the relationship testing. If you want to check about the strong of relationship, the differences testing, so it is not part of RAS model, it is part of inferential statistic, right? So from this, we understand that when we are doing quantitative research, most likely it is about how we understand the variable, how we measure the variable, and then how we see the result of that measuring the variable. So when we try to understand about human measurement, it is best we look back about what science already informed us about the good quality measurement, right? So science told us good quality measurement actually starting from physics, okay? From physics we know that measuring physical properties is crucial, it should be logical, it should be universal, okay? When you measuring rural, for example, what you measure in Kuala Lumpur should be not be different if you measure the same thing in Jakarta, for example, in Bangkok, or maybe London or New York. That's become universal, right? So if we have 4 physics instruments like this, measuring length, measuring weight, measuring time, and measuring temperature, okay? So we know that physics apply, okay, for certain characteristic that make that the instrument is the best in the world, even in the universe, right? So if you see the characteristic of physical measurement, the first one, they have starting point, 0 centimeter, 0 kilogram, 0 second, 0 degree of Celsius. Every measurement in physics have a clear starting point, right? So if we look at measuring something like this, it doesn't have clear starting point. Where do we start? Is it come from worst or it come from best? So physical measurement is much better, much good quality compared to the non-physical measurement, which is about measuring latent variable, right? Another characteristic is physical properties, they have scale, equidistant, equal interval. The distance between 0 to 1 centimeter, similar like 2 to 3 centimeter, of 6 to 5 centimeter, right? So physical properties, they are very strict. That scale should be applied in any physical measurement. when we use, for example, something like this, what is the real distance between slightly plausible, partly plausible, and highly plausible? Not very clear in terms of distance, not very clear in terms of scale. Okay? Also the same thing. What is the distance between worst to bad? Is it similar like bad to average? Not, no, maybe after the word ended, we still don't know. We are not sure about the distance itself. Right? So, another characteristic that physical properties, physical instrument has is all of the physical instrument has their own unit. You have centimeter or inch, gram or kilogram, second, minute, hours, okay, Celsius and Fahrenheit. When you go back here, you don't have unit to explain about the quality, okay, about the tendency, about the density. Okay, if you don't have unit, how you compare? Right, so this is equal situation if we want to have a precise measurement. Right? So the last time, all the physical properties has linear function. They are not following quadratic or cubic, right? When we have instrument to measure like what we call as regular questionnaire, so we usually have a two-facet situation where respondent answering certain questionnaire. So this is a typical of the regular questionnaire, right? Of course, the other situation, we have three facets when we deal with what we call, we inform other person to rate. So this becomes a rater and try to rate about somebody, okay, the rest the testee or test taker or ratee. And then the result of the examination will be put in the questionnaire. So this is a typical of two facet or three facet. Okay, we are dealing with the latent measurement. Okay, what exactly the result of this process? Okay, either two facet or three facet. Actually, we deal with the number type. Okay. So, based on Stefan's definitions of what type of data, we have four criteria. The first one is nominal data, it's similar like handphone number, right? Postcode. That it has number, but it not carries value, right? So when we put male with number 1 and female with number 2, doesn't mean that female is the best situation compared to male, because female has a bigger number. It's just only a label, right? What we have to understand based on the Stefan's definition, any kind of activity related to the latent measurement. Okay, when you measuring human being, either in terms of two facet or three facet, the result is we call it as ordinal type data. Okay, and ordinal type data function is just to count. It is about frequency. It is not to measure. When we want to measure, so the quality of data should be number 3 and number 4. Right? So, what kind of measurement data? Similar like what we have in physics instrument. When you measure a ruler, with ruler, for example, you have 10 centimeters. So, that 10 centimeters characterized as the ratio data. When you measure temperature, for example, and then you got number like 36.4 degree of Celsius, it calls as the interval data. What is the difference between interval and ratio? So interval doesn't have absolute zero. That's all. Okay? The other thing is okay. Right. So when we understand that the type of data we collect is ordinal, so we have to change our mind that dealing with ordinal is different when we dealing with the other type of data. Right? This is a kind of critiques that appear in many journal articles stating that the traditional way dealing with data analysis is not correct. How we abuse the data. Okay, so it is harsh, it's very hard critics, okay, but it's really enjoyable reading, okay. So what kind of abuse happened to the data when you try to find mean and standard deviation to the ordinal data, right? So another article is also very hard, very critical, saying that you will be get lost if you are using ordinal scale. Okay, so this is another critique that happened. Okay, another thing, it is much more complicated. They say that the article title is 7 Deadly Sins of Statistical Analysis. So if there is a deadly sins in statistical analysis, in hereafter could be there is some kind of statistical hell. Okay. So what kind of statistical hell? The first statistical hell will happen if you are doing sin number 1, using parametric analysis for ordinal data. So you will be faced with this situation if you are doing what we call ordinal data to parametric analysis. What kind of parametric analysis? Is a kind of analysis we do it day to day. Correlation, regression, t-test, ANOVA, factor analysis. That is what we call as parametric analysis. So I just inform you, we have to what we call repent, and then in Islamic term is tobatan nasuha, in order to go to the right path. Okay? In order to avoid statistical hell, right? So it's just only a comic. Okay? Don't take it seriously. When we got the data, then we tried to get the answer, and then science told us that we can get the answer to what we call a measurement model. The first measurement model that we can have is what we call as the classical test theory. It is developed by Charles Spellman a long time ago, and then later will be developed by Lee Cronbach and Thurston with the very famous mathematical model. They call it factor analysis. What is the thing that happened to this measurement model? They are relying on what we call group-centered statistics. When we know that they only care about group-centered statistics, so it is also reflecting to our own understanding about statistics, right? So from beginning when we are young, primary school student, secondary school student, first degree, and the rest. So we study statistics, but something that we study is good, but not complete. What we mean about not complete, they emphasize more on what we call group-centered statistics. They are losing information about what happened to the individual level, right? So statistics is good, but we have to realize it is not complete, right? How we complete that? So one person from Denmark, the name of that person is George Rush, suggests that we can utilize the same data looking with the different approach, and then we apply what we call individual-centered statistics, right? So basically, it's just only processing the same data, looking at the different way, okay, with the regular approach using score, plus suggest use probability and then use nonlinear function with logarithm, right? So this is what we call the evidence how what RAS actually started in 1960, and this article published in 2019. This article telling about the progress, what really happened to the RAS model, and from beginning only focusing on measurement and statistic. This article tells us that whenever science deal with human being, you can use RAS model. Okay, so it can be statistics, education, communication, health sciences, politics, okay, economics, okay. You can use RAS model as long as you are dealing with human being. Okay, so it is actually is a good opportunity for me when what we call as some person ask me in terms of data analysis, and then persons come from different field of study, for example, economic, health sciences, and they are struggling in terms of data analysis. So I said, why not use RAS model in terms of analyzing your data? So the person, what we call happy with that situation, and what we call as the possibility to get the paper published is much better, okay, because this is a new approach. As you know, that science always interested to the new approach, okay? It's not doing replication or duplication. Right, so RAS becomes standard in what we call language testing, right? So anywhere in the world, if you are trying to do the language testing, language assessment, if not using RAS model, then people consider that it is not a good approach to analyze quality of speaking in other languages, right, or in private language. Okay, so RAS become the standard for language testing. Okay, if you want to understand more, this is a good article that explains. In the past, in 1990s, people have a hot debate. Which one is better, classical or RAS model in terms of language testing? And then we know now that the war has been ended, and then this is the winner, right? I just telling you a nice story. All right, so RAS also becomes standard in what we call as health sciences. Health sciences dealing with pain, dealing with medicine, injection of vaccine booster, for example. We have to read about the quality of human, for example, experience. And then when you're dealing with that kind of thing, you need something that can provide you with precise and accuracy. And no other measurement model that can provide those two except RAS model, right? So if you want to study more, okay, so there is a 3 textbook written in English, becomes standard internationally, but of course on the right hand side is the most popular one, written by Ward and Fox, okay. So this is a good starting point if you want to study. So the middle is much more easier to understand, right? So I'm telling you a bit what is actually RAS model and data transformation. So it's just informing you a simple explanation. So take for example, I have an English test with 10 test item, and then we have 4 students, A, B, C, D. A is the smartest in the class, correct 9 out of 10, and then D is the slow learner student, correct 3 out of 10. Okay, so if we are relying on classical test theory, we just only focusing on correct answer. how many correct answer, right? But what George Russ informing to us, when you see the correct answer, actually there is a hidden information that you have to reveal. If you have 10 test items, if you correct 9, so it's meaning there are 1 incorrect answer. If you have 5 correct answer out of 10, you have 5 incorrect answer. So that hidden information utilized using odd ratio probability. So odd ratio probability for A is 9 divided by 1. 1, this is incorrect answer. So utilizing what we call appear that frequency of correct answer and then the frequency of incorrect answer, right? So odd ratio actually what we call as the probability of success. So A is a higher probability, highest probability of success compared to B, for example, right? So the next question is how can this probability can give us a good quality measurement? So we have to put a simple linear probability line, something like this, okay? On the left-hand side, we have here, for example, the lowest ability, 1 correct answer, 9 incorrect answer. On the right-hand side is 9 correct answer and 1 incorrect answer. Why not we have 0 divided by 10? So 0 divided by 10 meaning is 0, and it is not probability. Okay, why not we have 10 divided by 0? Any number divided by 0 is undefined. So that is also the limitation of Rush model. They cannot analyze for the extreme situation. Right? So we try to understand what exactly the distance between 1 correct answer to 2 correct answer and then 2 to 3 correct answer, and we found out that it is not same distance. So for this situation, Russ suggests use nonlinear function, which is logarithm. Okay, if you can recall back, we study logarithm when we are in year 9 or form 3. Okay, so finally we realize what is the function of logarithm after 1 long time ago. So in Indonesia, we study logarithm at year 3 of SMP. This is a lower secondary school. And at that time, I'm really unhappy with my mathematics teachers. Why we need to study logarithm? There is no function in our life. Now I understand and I have to say thank you to him at the time because finally I know the function of logarithm, which is to make that have a similar scale. Okay, so on the left-hand side, this is the situation where we have 1 correct answer. In the middle is 5 correct answer, and on the right-hand side is 9 correct answer, something like this. Okay, 0.111, and then 5 divided by 5, 1, and 9 divided by 1, 9. Okay. When you use logarithm, okay, what will happen? The distance between 5 correct answer to 1 correct answer, okay, this is 4 correct answer distance, similar like 5 correct answer to 9 correct answer. So that is also what we call it 4 distance of correct answer. So when you see this, at the same time, you also can see 0 here. So 0 here is similar like we see 0 in degree of Celsius, right? So it is showing some about starting point. So transformation data using Rush model is similar like we see interval scale in thermometer, right? Then all the characteristic of physical properties appear. So the first one is starting point, scale, equal distance, equal interval, and they have a linear scale, and they have a unit. because they are doing transformation from logarithm, probability and logarithm. They call it as logit, log on unit. Okay? So we as social scientists, okay, social science expert, we don't need to be what we call look much more to physics and engineering scientists as a better situation because they have a good instrumentation. We can measure something hidden and latent using this approach, and then the quality of measurement similar like what we have in physics and engineering. It provides what we call accuracy. It provides what we call preciseness, right? So that is a good situation for us. The most useful thing when we deal with the result of RAS model, we call it as right map. So right map is actually the application of what we call individual center statistic. When on the left hand, we can inform about the ability of the person, going up more smart, going down slow learner. On the right hand side, we are discussing about the difficulty level. Going up is more difficult item, going down is easy item. And all of these using the same scale of logic. Okay, that is the beauty of what we call preciseness and accuracy, because we applying the same logic scale, right? What is the result of RAS model? Of course, it is not everything, like what happened in under the sun. There is no such thing as perfect thing. Okay? What we can have from RAS model, the first one is about reliability. Okay, so what I understand about reliability is much better compared to what I understand reliability in classical test theory. Okay, in RAS model, reliability is more look as the number, about statistic, about variation. The bigger, the better. Okay, that exactly changed about my understanding about reliability. Previously, when I am seeing the alpha Cronbach, I look so amazed with the number. But now, I just understand it's just only a number, not reflecting the quality of the, for example, item level or maybe person level. Because alpha Cronbach only measuring the interaction between item and person. What RAS provide is much better index, which is reliability of item, person, and alpha Cronbach. And then we also can detect about the grouping of the data, which is item separation and item person. Why grouping is important? We have to go back that we are doing quantitative research. When we are doing quantitative research, we have to analyze data that reflect to the population. Reflect to the population, population always has grouping. Okay, for example, from the smartest in the class to the slow learner. Okay, so there's so many grouping inside. So understanding grouping indicating how reliable of your data. Right? If your data is not has a good separation index, what happened? You are doing wrong in terms of data collection. That's a good indication. And so the way that we are doing sampling could be not correct. Why? Because the separation index showing that not very good index to show. Alright, so the other thing that we can share is about validity. So I have always had time to explain this to students, especially, okay? Because sometimes students always think validity is only about showing off numbers. Okay, so I have to change their mind. So some of person in this class is my students. So you know how I'm always explaining this again and again and again. So validity is not about number. Validity is about argument. So you have to explain about the context, then you show the evidence, which is number. So when somebody asking you about validity, don't mention number first. Explain about the situation, then you mention the evidence, right? So there's a big difference when we deal with reliability compared to validity, right? Of course, in some certain situation, I have to be explained diplomatically that the numbers not you saw, for example, in student seminar, is not actually the validity, and sometimes need a lot of information to make sure that they understand. Okay, in trust model, validity can reveal at the instrument level, which is what we call fit to the model. Is it the data really can be analyzed? The second one is about unidimensionality. So RAS is what we call the principle of measurement, that all have to become with the same dimension. Okay, so of course this is sometimes complicated with factor analysis, because factor analysis they can check that the factors could be not one, could be 2, 3, or 4, right? So there's because of different what we call as approach. The next one is about rating scale. Usually we deal with the essay question, or we deal with the polytops data, ticket rating, right? The good thing is that RAS also can inform you about individual center statistic, which is informing about what really happened to the item level. We are talking about how much, logit value. We are talking about how precise, about measurement, about preciseness, okay, standard error. What is the importance of measurement if you don't have standard error? Okay, you cannot provide you with the better explanation if you don't have standard error. Okay, and then about how good, which is about content validity of the item. At the same time, also we have to check about is it the item has bias, or what we call has a diff index not following the criteria. We usually call different item functioning, right? So the next one is we discuss about validity itself. Okay, so there is one article written by Joe Michel, a psychologist from University of Sydney, Australia, and then the title says it all. Okay, and then when I see the title like this, I also feel offended. Okay. How can you validate something with something invalid? Right? So it doesn't make any sense. But this is a good critique that we have to look back what we understand about validity. Right? So this is a book chapter. So if you're interested, maybe you can WhatsApp me or email me. I can give you a soft copy of this one. Okay, but through not official channel, right? The idea of validity, of course, it is evolving. It is not something that bypass with the complete package. So it is developed from the beginning with the 4 criteria of validity. Okay, but if you see the latest from FEA and CEPATS, for example, they are not following about the concept of validity, what they what we call as expanded in 1950s, in 1960s. Okay, sadly, some textbooks still use the idea from 1950s and 60s. Even right now, we discuss about what we call validity is not the same anymore, right? If you want to know, this is the person that we have to protest. Because of this person, the definition of validity in the social science changed dramatically, right? So, Massix explaining about it is not about number anymore. Okay, it is not about sophisticated calculation anymore. So people get shocked because of that, what we call as argument. But right now, people believe that this is much more correct, reflecting about validity definition, right? So if you want to know, you can read this source. Okay, always use Google, for example, or Google Scholar, right? And when we want to understand about validity, the best source I think is come from APA, Standard for Educational and Psychological Testing. This is always the good source that I recommend to any student who want to do testing of their instrument, and it's become standard for any journals, what we call as textbook. When I write something about article about instrument testing, and then the reviewer or editor usually refer to, can you put the source from this to be included in order to make sure that it is following this, the content, right? And then one of the example that we can use is article just published in 2022 in Journal of Language Testing in Asia. So they are talking about validity framework is actually is very similar what explanation is within this standard, okay? But given with the empirical evidence to show, right? And then the last part is what actually RAS can provide in terms of construct validation, all right? So I use the explanation from standard and this article. And then the first one, when we have empirical data, we have to do what we call is data cleaning and data validation. Not all your respondents will provide you with the good quality data, right? Some of them may be not consistent, some of them may be not motivated, so they just what we call fill in as they like. It is not reflecting about measuring your latent variable what to be measured, right? So the first one to check is what we call dimensionality. This is the first principle in RAS modeling, because we want to see when we want to measure something, so we have to make sure that it can involve, okay, the higher value to the lower value. That is the principle of unidimensionality. So the higher value of logit of the item going down to the lowest value of the logit of the item. So that indicated with what we call as the variance explained by measures about 40%. This is showing the variation of item logic, right? Then we also have to be taking care, is there any dimension in our instrument? So we have to check the what we call agent value, okay? Because we don't want that even we have a very sophisticated questionnaire and then RAS detecting that there is more one dimension in the instrument, meaning that the quality of measurement is not very good, right? This is telling to us also that factor analysis in this case is not relevant because they only emphasize on single dimension, right? And then when we doing factor analysis, for example, we always have difficulty to detect which actually the item come from the other dimension. So RAS can inform about the location of the item that come from different dimension. So it is a function of individual center statistic, right? Next one is we are talking about, is it our rating scale understandable fully by respondent or not? Okay, so we provide, for example, 5 choices, strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. So the argument is it our respondent understand all the choices or not? And it can be proven using rating scale analysis. Okay, so it is a test at the instrument level, right? And then the next stage is a typical of RAS model using individual center statistic. So we see it, the quality of the item. We are looking to the how much, okay, logit value, how precise, standard error, and how good, which is about fit statistic. So we are talking about quality to the item level, right? And then the next one, the next one is about the person response. Okay, is it really respondent that interact with our questionnaire can be measured perfectly or not? So we are talking about what we call targeting. Okay, targeting meaning that is it really our instrument measuring something that's supposed to be measured? Right? Then we are checking about variability, okay, and then the item bias, right? So I show you some kind of practical information using the win stack, okay? So if we have so many items and then the contrast loading is more than 0.5, actually, these 4 items, A, B, C, D, is belong to the other dimension. So what should we do with this one? You have to drop this item because it is not belong with the other item available in the instrument. Okay, it's much more easier to detect, and then we understand better about the quality of our instrument. Right? Next one, for example, we provide respondent with 7 rating, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay? And then this is the scale that happening when we use 7 rating, okay? As you can see, the good rating scale, if they have their own peak. As you can see, what appear in the peaks here, number 1, number 2, number 4, 6, and 7. So 3, 4, 5, not 3 and 5, not really feasible to respondent. So what happened with this situation? We can collapse rating. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we change to 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. So it's meaning that rating 4 here become rating 3, rating 5 become 4, rating 6 become 4, and rating 7 become 5. Then we have much better rating scale analysis result. So this is about checking the quality of response of respondent. Why this is important? This is about measuring something hidden. We are measuring something latent. If the choices given to them not showing understanding fully, so actually our data is not in a good situation. Next one is about when we have the instrument. So we always try to understand, is it really free from what we call ceiling effect and floor effect? We detect about outlier, okay? So how do we know there is an outlier? So this is the response of the respondent, okay? And then this is the real measure, and then this is probability for the lowest score, and this is probability for the highest score. As you can see, X here, maximum is around 2, meaning that this person here cannot be measured perfectly with the instrument. That is what we call a ceiling effect. Those who cannot be measured using our instrument. The same thing, the lowest probability of measure is here, less than -2, and we still have the person around here. So it's meaning that those persons are also cannot be measured perfectly. It is what we call a floor effect. So a good instrument usually have around 0.5, maximum 1% of respondents that belong to the ceiling effect and floor effect. Larger than that, so means that the instrument has problem. And another thing is deep analysis. So deep analysis can involve to us how about the group response. So on the left, for example, we are comparing group response from gender, male and female, L meaning female, L meaning male, P meaning female, perempuan, okay? So as you can see, there is no much different in terms of response. So negligible in terms of item bias, right? On the right-hand side, we try to understand based on the age of respondent. Okay, so you can see here something that different from the rest. So typically, we see that the possible of a dip in the item for certain what we call as demographic variable. In this case, it's about age of respondent. Right, so I think that's all for me. Hopefully can provide you with a good explanation regarding RAS model, and thank you very much for listening and joining for this speech. Okay, so thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum, and back to the Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bambang Sumintono, for the insightful presentation. Let's hope that our participants are not only satisfied with the presentation, but overall more motivated to apply the RAS model in their research study. So, I would like to open the floor for Q&A question and answer session. Participants are welcome to ask questions either through the chat box or click the raise hand button to let me know that you want to speak. Is there any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Yes, Doctor,
Yeah, please introduce yourself first.
my name is Ismail. So I just introduced our RAS model like quite recently, and still have a few questions about it. So regarding your presentation just now, you were saying that the field is not really in a good position to change the scale from 3 to 2 and how do we determine that what would be the scale to be changed? I mean, that how do we keep the scale become much smaller than it should?
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Okay. The first one, we have to understand that we are measuring something hidden. We are measuring something latent, right? So expressing about our opinion, perception, and attitude. Okay. So our judgment based on the capacity of our brain. Okay. So capacity of adult human being brain only can see 7 choices, the maximum that we can see from the choices of rating, right? So if the choices more than 7, actually we cannot sure about the difference between that rating, right? So if we apply 7 rating and then the situation is not so good as we already presented. Okay, so what happened? So it is always go back to what is the stage of your research. If the stage of your research is pilot test, so you have a good information to sorter the rating that provide to the respondent. So for example, from 5 to 4 or from 7 to 5 for the real data collection, right? If your stage is in the what we call the real data that you don't have time to collect another data, so collapsing rating is not cheating. Collapsing rating is the logical way in order to make sure we have a good quality data. Okay? Cheating, if we just fabricated data or manipulated data, that's cheating. Right? So collapse rating, because we have evidence to show that 7 rating is not really fully understood by the respondent, then we just doing collapse rating, and then we have usually much better all the indices in terms of reliability and validity. Right? So this is a kind of solution that trust can provide. Right?
So meaning that, doctor, in terms of collapsing the scale, so how do we determine that? Do we have a choice to?
In terms of rating of polytones data, okay, the principle that must follow is what we call monotonic principle. Monotonic principle simply that those who are smart, they can answer a difficult question. Those who are slow learner only can answer easy question, right? So there are some indices that you have to look. The first one is about how many respond. So every rating minimum response is 10. Okay, so if you have bigger respondents, will be no problem. The second one is average logic of the respondent. Okay, from the lower rating scale going to the higher rating scale from 1 to 7. So the logic of each of respondent that fill in the questionnaire should be increased. Okay, so average score should be increased. The next index is odd-fit mean square. So in odd-fit mean square should be not much more than 2. Okay, so the acceptable range actually 0.5 to 1.5, that but not more than 2. Okay, the latest index that you have to use is what we call Enrich threshold. So Enrich threshold between ratings should be between 1.4 to 5.0. If the index between 1 to 2, for example, is less than 1.4, so it should be collapsed. If the index between rating 2 and 3 less than 1.4, should be collapsed. Okay? If the index 3 to 4, for example, more than 5.0, so you have to what we call expand the rating to become bigger. But most likely, the problem is about collapsing, not to become a wider rating. Okay, so I read so many research reports regarding rating scale analysis. The citation always only rely on collapse rating, not match with the rating. Right?
One more question, doctor. Okay, one more question, doctor. This is you were saying just now that you were discussing on the polytomous data. How about the dichotomous data? My first question on the dichotomous data: how do we determine the person level for that dichotomous data? And then you were also mentioning in your presentation just now there would be the floor, ceiling, and also the floor and the ceiling. So for that, because the catamounts data, we just only have is either 1 or 0. So it's not like the other we have the interval scale 1 until 5. So if that is the case of the dichotomous data, how do we determine whether it is not reaching to the maximum or minimum value?
Okay. So actually, dichotomous data is much more simple because you have two choices and all the test taker, testee understand if they don't get it right, they're wrong. So the dividend is so clear. You don't have to test about the rating scale because you'll be very different. Okay, so only two choices, right and wrong, something like that. Okay, the challenge in terms of detecting ceiling and floor effect is about you have to looking what is the maximum score that can achieve by the test taker or the minimum score that you can they can achieve in the test taker, so you can analyze is there any ceiling effect or floor effect. Okay, the best way, of course, using right map, right, and then it is feasible to see is there any what we call as ceiling effect or floor effect. Many people are addressing that is the what we call is the limitation of RAS model. Actually, there is limitation to all measurement model. Any measurement model, Bayesian, what we call as bias, classical test, CDM, they cannot analyze outlier data. And the outlier data is beyond measurement. So when we have somebody who are very smart, very genius, we cannot test them because all the battery of items that we can prepare, they can success all. So yes, of course, the kind of that kind of situation may be very minimal, maybe less than 5% of the population. Okay. Right? Test. Okay. Sorry. Alright, so terima kasih Dr. Haris. So what is my suggestion if student afraid of RAS model? Actually, RAS model is just a logic calculation, and all the what we call is the mathematical technical calculation is done by the software, by the laptop. What we have to understand is the logic about data transformation, which is using probability. And probability is the thing that we already studied long time ago during our lower secondary school. Okay, so everybody will understand easily about probability. And then the rest is about logic and what we call it law of practice, right? So if those of you need to discuss or you have space or problem regarding RAS model, I'm very happy to help, okay? Even if I'm not longer in Fakulti Pendidikan or Universiti Malaya, I'm very happy to help, don't worry, right?
Thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Bambang Sumintono, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Dr. Haris Shah Abdul Hamid, Head of Department of Educational Psychology and Counselling, to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Bambang Sumintono. Please welcome. break around 30 minutes. This event will resume back at 11 a.m. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, before we proceed to the presentation by the presenters, I would like to remind the deadlines of the presentation. Each presenter will be given 15 minutes for the presentation. Question and answer session will be held at the end of each presentation. All participants are welcome to ask questions either through the chat box or click the raise hand button to let me know you want to speak. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Chin Wen Chong with the topic Psychometric Evaluation of the 18-item version of the Multi-Dimensional Students' Life Satisfaction Scale for Malaysian Adolescents. Please welcome.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? So can I share my... Can you see my sharing? No?
Yes.
I will just start with my presentation. Is it all right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see my slides? Is it clear?
Yes, Mr. Chin.
Okay, thank you. Okay, a very good morning to everyone. I'm Chin Wen Chong. So the topic today will be a psychometric evaluation of the 18-item version of the multidimensional students' life satisfaction scale for Malaysian adolescents. So life satisfaction is a crucial indicator of adolescent mental health. That's why I focus on this life satisfaction variable. And then Hübner 2001 developed the 40-item multi-dimensional students life satisfaction scale, or MSLSS, for the assessment of adolescent satisfaction with family, school, self, friends, and living environment. So it's actually not only assessing the general life satisfaction, but it actually can measure life satisfaction in different domains or different dimensions. And the 18-item version of the MSLSS is actually a shorter version, which adapted by Zawawi and colleagues in 2009. And it is found that it is as valid as the original version of the MSLSS. However, the validity evidence of the MSLSS 18 remains unclear in the context of Malaysia. That's why this present study aimed to validate the MSLSS 18 among Malaysian adolescents using confirmatory factor analysis. So it's a classical test theory, it's not the Rush model presented by the keynote speaker today. So let me tell you about the MSLSS 18M. So M is because it is a Malay version. So this Malay version I adopted is translated by Jacob and colleagues in 2012, which they used the back-to-back translation method. Okay, so this scale has 6-point response options from 1 to 6. So 1 being the strongly disagree and 6 is strongly agree on the items such as below. So of course they are measuring life satisfaction in 5 domains, 5 dimensions. So they have 5 subscales. So the first subscale is family with 4 items. So for example, is my family is better than most. And then the second subscale is school, on life satisfaction on school. So also 4 items, and the example is I look forward to going to school. And then the third is self, being themselves, and then also 4 items, and example is there are lots of things I can do well. And number 4, the subscale number 4 is friends, also 4 items. For example, my friends are nice to me. And the fifth domain or the subscale is a living environment with only 2 items. Okay, for example, I like my neighborhood. So the methods for this study actually reused the data collected for a larger project on adolescent suicidal ideation and depression. So this is, I just used the variable for life satisfaction for this study. And then a total of 852 public secondary school students are involved in this data. And then we are using the multi-stage cluster sampling method to recruit the students from 3 public secondary schools in 3 different regions of Kuala Lumpur, which are North, Central, and South region. And then the participants are 13 to 17 years old. And then CFA, the confirmatory factor analysis, was performed using the Zawawi software. So for the results, so these are the descriptive statistics of the 5 dimension or 5 subscales of the life satisfaction scale. Okay, we have family, school, self, friends, and the living environment. So we can see that the mean is like 4 point something for all the dimensions. And then skewness and kurtosies are within the normal range. And then correlation matrix, you can see that all the subscales are actually significantly and positively associated with each other. And then for the CFA, then these are the results for the factor loadings. Then, and we have the factor covariance. So what we want to look at is the model fit indices. So we have CFI, TLI. You can see, as you can see, it is like 0.95, and then TLI is 0.948. So it's near to 0.95, which is indicating good model fit. And then the SRM are also below 0.08, and then Ramsey also below 0.06. So it also shows that the 5 dimensions is actually showing a good fit. Or just now didn't show you the path diagram. So actually I fit the items into 5 dimensions. So these are the diagram showing the factor, the 5 factor structure. Okay, so as you can see, the living environment only has 2 items. Okay. Then, so in conclusion, the hypothetical 5-factor model had a good model fit for the Malaysian adolescent sample, okay, as shown by the model fit indices. And then the MSLSS18 showed excellent internal reliability with the Cronbach alpha of 0.789 to 0.86, except for the living environment subscale because it only has 2 items, so I didn't run the reliability analysis on that subscale. So MSLSS18 is a valid and reliable tool for Malaysian adolescents, and local researchers and mental health practitioners are advised to use this MSLSS18 to assess Malaysian adolescents' life satisfaction in multiple dimensions. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chin Wen Chong, for the insightful presentation. Now, I would like to open the floor for the question and answer session. Do you have any questions?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Aris.
I'm just wondering. Based on your readings about this instrument, has there been any indications that male and female students react differently or respond differently to the questionnaire?
I didn't run any analysis on this, so I'm not sure about that. Sorry. Yeah, between male and female, I didn't run any analysis to see that. Thank you for your question, Dr. Aris.
Sorry, just I noticed that you used Jamovi for the CFA. It's good to see people using Jamovi because I've been promoting Jamovi in my classes.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, if no more questions, thank you, Mr. Chin Chong, for the topic. Okay, now let's proceed to the next presenter. I would like to invite Mr. Wahyu and Mr. Shukron with the topic Profile of Character, Virtues, Wisdom and Knowledge of Prospective English Teachers. Please welcome.
You need to unmute your microphone.
Okay, thanks. Clear. You can see my face in the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our paper under title Profile of Student Wisdom and Knowledge Character. Next. The introduction of our paper is personality character is a very influential on person success in various aspects of personal, career, social, and learning. Contributing of character to success in university, one must feel a desire to learn, of willingness to engage in study, so that character of hard work, optimism, discipline, religiousness, curiosity, love of science, honesty are some of the characters that need to be honed by students in achieving success as graduates. Students who are always optimistic in the academic field have influence on their learning achievement. Peterson and Sleiman link character strength with virtue values because virtues are developing based on character strength. Knowledge and wisdom are the main values regarding cognitive function. There are 5 strengths that include in knowledge and wisdom. They are creativity, curiosity, love on learning, critical and open-minded, and perspective.
Sorry, I think your
What?
slide has not moved.
Okay. In slide of an introduction, right? Sorry.
Okay.
Next. Okay. Character education. The point of character of education is not just educating right and wrong, but also character education is concerned with operational teaching methods, strategy, and technique. And we are interested in analyzing the character strength of English department student at EIM Parepare to help students understand their perspective character and also to find their most dominant character and lowest character strength to be used as a basic information for a basic improving their self to become competent prospective educator. The material of our paper, we are focused on the virtues of knowledge and wisdom. There are five virtues of knowledge and education. The first is creativity, curiosity, open-minded, love of learning, and perspective. The methodology of this paper, we are use quantitative approach for this paper, and also to collecting the data. We are use values in action inventory of strength or via ICE, and also the instrument of this research. There are 12 items, namely character creativity. There are 2 items, character curiosity 2 items, character open-minded 2 items, character love of learning 4 items, and the last character perspective 2 items. And the subject of this research is we are want to distribute these items to 91 students who are prospective English teacher at the State Islamic College of IAIN Parepare, Sulawesi, Indonesia. And we are use RAS model to analysis and describe the student character strength profile. The research and discuss. The first, we are analyzing we are analyze the map item of the students. We can see in the slide the item L9 in the upper item is the item from love or learning. It's described that the item L9 really read scientific books to fill spare time is the most difficult to work on, and in the bottom the item C7 is the easier to do. The character of knowledge and wisdom is easier to do. The same thing in here in the table. We can see the item of will continue to find out about the information of interest of or item C7 with the logic minus 1.42. is the character that easier to do for the student, and then in the last, the item L9, I re, I rely read scientific books to fill my spare time. With the logic 1.13 is the hardest to do. Next, we move to the map items, map person. We can see in the screen there are three parts: the green, in the green, the yellow, and the blue. It's described that there are in 91 total respondents, there are 15.5% in the green side of characters most domain, and in the yellow there are 39.2% that respondents stable, describe the stable, and then in the blue side, the number of respondents who are less are 13.1%. And the conclusion of our paper or our research are we find out the most dominant character in student EIN pare-pare as prospective teacher is character curiosity, is the easier character for the most dominant character of the student of EIM pare-pare is character curiosity, and then the lowest character of EIM pare-pare is character creativity with, and then we can conclude that the activity of reading scientific books to fill spare time is a character that difficult for students to do, while the character will continue to find out about the information that is of interest of him. Is the character that easier to carry on. So I think that's all for the explanation. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wahidu, and for the informative presentation. Now we would like to open for your question and answer session. Any questions?
Hello. How would you explain the
Sorry.
differences in the characters? Is it? Do you think it's specific for the sample that you have, or do you think it will be different if you were to have responded from different provinces or different areas or different parts of Indonesia?
Okay, thank you. Okay, to answer the question from Mr. Haris, the the result of our paper is just focusing or specific on the student at EIM Parepare. Maybe if we are do the same research in the other subject or the other student in the other university, maybe we can find the other answer or the other domain character or the lowest character, because the character of someone is maybe different. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. No more questions. Thank you, Mr. Wahyu. Thank you again for the insightful presentation and topic. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Ibrahim with the topic, the psychometric properties of perceptions of a grammatical intonation module questionnaire among EFL college students. Please welcome.
Good morning. Am I hearable? Can you hear
Yes,
me,
we
please?
can hear you.
Yeah, great. So good morning to all of the participants, and thank you for accepting my participation in this seminar. My presentation, is it clear for you?
Yes.
Yes, great. Great. So this is supposed to be presented by me and my supervisor, Dr. Samah, but unfortunately, Dr. Samah could not attend and could not join us since she's having a defense session. So I will present on behalf. Well, actually, this is a paper, this is a study. What we did in this study is to validate a questionnaire among Arab Omani AFL college students. We used the Rash model analysis for the validation. This questionnaire is developed to investigate the perceptions of those students concerning a grammatical intonation module. So the point is like that. First, we developed the module, we applied the module, then we developed the questionnaire. This questionnaire is supposed to examine students, Omani Arab AFL college students' perceptions of the grammatical intonation module. For this validation, as we wanted to validate this questionnaire as an instrument, we use the Rash model analysis, the RMM. Now, to start first, let's shed some light on the module that we wanted to assess, to investigate. The grammatical intonation module, it's a module for intonation. We selected some dialogues, conversations from Friends sitcom. It's a dramedy, a kind of comedy, an American sitcom. We selected the dialogues and conversations. We developed the module, and the students were required, according to this module, they were required to respond, to listen to these conversations and dialogues, then to respond to follow-up tasks, 3 follow-up tasks for each session. The module consisted of 21 sessions. So they were required to identify, to repeat, and to drill then to record themselves and send their recordings to the teacher for feedback. This is the module. It took 21 sessions, 3 sessions per week, which means 7 weeks. At the end of this, after the application of this module, we developed a questionnaire. We wanted to investigate students' perceptions about this module. When we developed the questionnaire, we wanted to validate it as an instrument. So we used the Rasch model analysis to validate the questionnaire about this module. Well, the questionnaire consisted of 24 items. They covered intonation exposure, students' perceptions about intonation exposure, about model session, about improvement of intonation production, about the follow-up tasks, and the feedback. So the questionnaire covered or consisted of 6 constructs. Now, the study was a pilot study. For the validation, we used a pilot study. And a total of 30 Omani students participated. They were non-major Affle College students. They study English as a non-departmental subject. Those students are studying technology. Their major is technology. But they study English in their foundation year at the college. So they participated as the subjects in the pilot study. First, we employed experts validity. Before employing the Rasch model analysis, we employed the experts validity. So the contents of the questionnaire in itself as one entity was given to a group of 5 experts. Those were experts in phonetics, in linguistics, and educational technology. They were 5 specialists, 5 doctors actually, and assistant professors. And the questionnaire was given to them for validation. They validated. They, of course, they suggested some minor modifications, but all in all, they judged the questionnaire as a valid instrument to be used to investigate students' perception. After that, we employed the Rasch model. For the Rasch model, we employed these analyses to investigate the psychometric properties of the questionnaire. These are the validity and the reliability of the questionnaire. So to achieve this aim, we use the dimensionality, the item fit, and the item polarity parameters. This is to achieve the validity, to investigate the validity of the questionnaire. For reliability, we use the item map the person and item separation analysis. So we used all of these statistics to investigate the validity and the reliability of the questionnaire, depending on the results of the pilot study. Well, after employing the experts' validity as well as the Rasch model analysis, we reached some findings. The result is that the items of the questionnaire really fit the RM properly. And it is judged and found out statistically, according to the RM analysis, it was found that it is valid and reliable as an instrument. It could be used as an instrument, a valid and reliable instrument, to measure Omani Affle College students' perceptions of the grammatical intonation module. So all in all, our study was like that. We developed the grammatical intonation module. We applied the grammatical intonation module on Omani students. After the application, we wanted to investigate students' perceptions of that intonation module. What do they think of that module? So we developed the questionnaire. We developed a questionnaire for that module to investigate students' perceptions of that module. We wanted to validate the questionnaire as an instrument. So we used the experts validity, then we used the RASH model analysis, the RASH analysis. Statistics were used for both of them, for the experts validity and of course for the RASH analysis to get the results. Results of both indicated that this questionnaire is valid, it is reliable, can be used as an instrument for further or for future reference as well. Well, I believe we reached the end, and thank you very much. I open the door for you for any questions, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, for the informative presentation. Now, I would like to open for question and answer. Any questions?
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to know how will you use the validated questionnaire? As I understood it, you use it for your students who took the English course. Will this questionnaire be usable outside of this course?
Yes, after validating this instrument, it could be used. If needed, yes, it could be used because it has been proved to be a valid and reliable instrument. So why not? For future studies, it could be used. Some modifications, because if you use it with different sample, you might apply some minor modifications to go in line. However, it could be used. Yes, it could be used for future reference. Yes.
If no more, thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, for the informative presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next.
Okay. Can hear my voice? I try to
Yes, doctor.
Again. Yes. Can see my screen? Sorry. Oh no, yeah. You have. Can be seen? Hello? Yes? Huh? Can we see it?
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to the seminar committee, especially to University Malaya for giving me the opportunity. My name is Sri Mulyanti from Education Chemistry, Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Islam Negeri Wali Songo, Semarang, Indonesia. Let me share my little research here about measurement of human latency with RAS model analysis in science learning literature review. Science is fact-based scientific knowledge. Science is part of the knowledge that must be learned by students at various levels of education. As knowledge that is learned, of course, the mastery of student science concepts needs to be measured as an indicator of learning success. Although science is definite, this is not the case with measurable knowledge from students because it is related to psychometric measurement. So an analysis is needed that can guarantee the accuracy of the result of measuring students' scientific knowledge and including the instrument used. Both of these, the measurement of student concept or the instrument test, becomes accurate by analysis through the RAS model, which includes various tables of data from analysis of RAS model. We have known various criteria for the feasibility of psychometric measuring instrument with RAS model, both from the aspect from the student knowledge or the instrument. So in this study, I review various research results in science learning, how to implement RAS model in convincing student science measurement result. Here the material and method. How to find? I find the article from Google Scholar in range 2015 until 2022. About 23 articles. So after that, how to analyze? Articles were grouped according to the different objectives of the analysis using the RAS model. Okay, next. Based on the review of the articles, I divide them into two major groups. The student side, here the label by ability or person, and the instrument side, here instrument or item. From the student side or the person or the subject of the research, here I divide into three categories: are cognitive, response, and skills. The cognitive aspect includes students' abilities when given the test about science concept, including the misconception and the process during which they work on the test, because there is the result here. Suspend cheating student during the test, one of the result. So the response section here includes student opinion on science learning activities. And the last skill aspect includes measuring student skill in science learning activities such as here critical thinking and scientific inquiry competencies. From RAS data, we actually use a fit person, measure, and etc. to give the accurate information from student answer. The next from instrument side or from item from the test. Here I divide into two. The first from instrument side we get from RAS analysis. Such as item fit, reliability, raw variance, item measure, and they have to support the validity argument about the test which use in instrument to measure student concept. Therefore, I divide into two, test and questionnaire. In test here, so many research in science learning which use RAS model to support the validity to support the validity argument, and also in questionnaire also need that the questionnaire test is valid or no by RAS model. And then the conclusion here, science learning is part of factual concept and is quantized with precision. Even so, the measurement of student knowledge of science concept cannot be easily measured, especially with very precision. Student knowledge is related to psychometric measurement or related to latent human nature. So it's necessary to standardize the feasibility of measuring instrument and measurements result from student knowledge of science and as an exact science. RAS gives the solution, as can be seen from the effort of researchers in these articles I review in the field of science learning who have adopted the RAS model as a reference in strengthening arguments about the validity of the instrument and the accuracy of the measurement students' ability about science concept. Oke, thank you. Terima kasih, matur nuwun.
Thank you, Dr. Sri Mulyanti, for the insightful presentation. Now I would like to open for question and answer. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I would love to know, because this is my first time of hearing the research using RAS model. By the way, I'm also from Semarang, Pusri.
Yes, thank you.
And then I would love to talk and discuss about like the method on how you use the RAS model for validity and reliability of using literature review, because I'm also planning to do the same thing, but I'm kind of like still trying to design what kind of like item for the measurement. Like in your presentation, you mentioned about different thing about the fit and measure. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but if for example, in your literature review, your item is the article, correct?
Your what? Your what?
In the
item?
The article, right?
The article, yes.
Yes, and then how you measure? How do you measure the article to the group of experts? What kind of like question that you ask to them? Maybe you have explained it, but since I'm very new in this area, so I'm kind of like maybe a little bit need to be explained more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pipit, for the question. Actually, I'm also still new beginner on also in RAS. Then I began my research from review the first. After that, from this review, we can conclude there some field in science, because in science many fields, chemistry, physics, and etc. Nah, then in chemistry, because I'm from chemistry education, still need to many example to use the RAS. And then in validity, okay, we come to validity in science. Every research I always divide into two. The first from the item. The item of course we check the validity first from fit item. So from the unidimensionality or eigenvalue. So from the right map, how the spare of the right map or the logic. If we sure that the instrument is valid from all of criteria RAS, then we can see the result from student answer. The student answer because the item we sure that valid. Our argument validity of the item is accurate. Then we see how the validity also from the student answer. Yes, back to the fit person. Fit person is the answer valid or not, or they cheat, or they. But in Indonesia habit what count the button like that. Yes, ABC just shoot or just shoot this the answer, not thinking more. We can see also from RAS. So after that we can see how the ability, then all aspect in RAS the tables we can check to support the data of our research from item aspect or from item side and from student answer or student response like that. If there is the next question, maybe we can chat more. Yes, Dr. Pipi, thank you for the question. I hope it's answer your question. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's worth it to have further discussion. Maybe you can share your contact after this.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Pipi.
you. Good luck for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Nadia, your question?
Assalamualaikum. I'm Nadia from Faculty of Education, University of Malaya. Thank you, Doctor, for your very interesting findings. Okay, I would like to ask, as far from my knowledge, from your background as in chemistry education, as far as I concerned, usually science field, their research is very experimental based, right, Doctor?
Yes, right.
Okay. So, from your opinion, how RUSH can help to improve the area of the research, experimental based research, and how RUSH actually we can improve that? How can we use that RUSH and experimental research? Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, thank you, Miss Nadia, for the question. Yes, this is also for what's still my homework. Yes, experimental and RAS. If I see the literature, but I don't include here because out of the learning then at a laboratory, pure laboratory, there is a validation from the result of lab, and then we call it what validity procedure. Yes, maybe we can repeat it 3 times. That yes, this procedure is valid. We repeat again, then the result same, consistent, and valid. But I think it still need more analysis. Then RAS can help it. If we get by the many variable in experiment, of course, many variable, yes, such as in lab, heat or temperature or the concentration and etc. RAS can answer it from many variables, so we get many results. We can analyze it with RAS, and it give what argument or strengthening, yes, such just now I said, it can support our argument that our experiment is valid and we can use for learning or etc. I hope it's answer it. Answer your question, Miss.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Sri Mulyanti, for answering the questions.
Yes, thank you, Pramita.
Next, I would like to invite our next presenter, Mr. Kamarul Arifin Ahmad, with the topic Handheld Gadgets versus Computers, a discovery of test fairness for listening tests in an English language course. Please welcome.
Alright, Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Can all of you see and hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. Okay. Hello, Assalamualaikum. Can you see my slide?
Okay.
Alright. Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Kamarul Arifin Ahmad. I am a PhD student in Educational Measurement. So today I'm going to present to you a small-scale research conducted by myself. It is very small, simple, I could say study, not really big one. So the title of my study would be Handheld Gadgets versus Computers, a discovery of test fairness for listening tests in an English language course. So I intend to find out whether there is unfairness when it comes to listening tests among the group of students who are using handheld gadgets like handphone and also tablet, as well as to those who are using computers. All right, so to begin with, let's talk about what is test fairness. So according to Mogadam and Nasizadeh, it is very complex to define fairness because it involves a lot of things, a lot of aspects, not only content. If you read certain literatures, they suggest that content, for example, scientific content, may favor male students where they can perform better as compared to the female students. But actually, what these authors are suggesting is that it is more than that, not only content, but it involves many other things. And because of that, test fairness can be summarized as giving the fair treatment, fair opportunity, equal opportunity to all test takers to show their abilities when answering the test. So basically in a test when we want to measure certain traits or measure certain ability or performance, so the students are ought to have equal opportunity to actually show to the or responded to show their true abilities in the test itself. So based on my research and my literature, I quoted from these authors. The first one is Malikian et al. 2019. So these are the possible threats to fairness. The first one is culture, socio-economy, education level, language which include translation, testing process which also include familiarity to the format. So I would like to touch a little bit on the culture. The culture here is not limited to the culture of races only, but it is also could include the culture of certain people or certain group of people in a place. For example, in Malaysia, we have students who study or who went to national daily school. We have students went to school, science school and so on. So this could also be considered as a culture where a group of people or a group of students are experiencing different environment. And according to Mogadam and Nasizadeh also, gender, age, religion, nationality, as well as sexual orientation could also pose threats to fairness. Basically, gender, age, religion, nationality are something that we usually hear and we could read from the literature, but sexual orientation is something which is relatively new because some countries in the West, they have started to acknowledge this group of people where they find that some studies found that the difference in the group could also pose possible threats to the fairness of the test. So the problem that I faced before this is that because we are still in the midst of using and having online classes as well as online assessments, so we have a lot of platforms where we can use to conduct our assessment. Like the institution where I'm working with, they have already prepared one platform, but unfortunately the platform may not be reliable or may not be feasible to be used for listening tests. Therefore, the teachers who are teaching the subject resorted to Google Form where it is easily accessible for all students. So the problem arose when I received complaints from the students who used mobile gadget, like for example, handphone and also tablets. So because of this, I got the idea to find out whether the group of students who use mobile gadgets actually did not get the same equal opportunity or equal treatments to or experience to answer the question, because I did not receive any complaints from students who are using laptop or students who are using computers, for example. So I would like to find out about, is there a possibility that the test fairness is threatened, and is there a significant difference in terms of students' performance between these two groups, the first one who used mobile gadgets and the second one who used computers. So the instrument used was the listening test itself. The instrument was vetted by panels of English language experts. They are all CEFR experts, so they vet the paper, the questions, and there were four audio recordings, and each of the recording, the students are ought to answer 5 multiple choice questions, so it is dichotomous items. So in total, they have 20 items to be answered. So initially, I wanted to use Rush model where I would like to conduct differential item functioning to see if certain items may function differently towards the groups. And I would like to also conduct t-tests to compare the performance between these two groups. So there were 49 students, only one group because I was teaching because I taught this previous semester. I taught several groups, but only one group was taken into this study. There were 49 students and they were all level 1 students who obtained band 3 and band 4 upon registration of the course. And they were all familiar with the format of how the test was going to be conducted, right? So unfortunately, I cannot perform differential item functioning because to use Rush model, we need to fulfill the unidimensional assumption, but according to Hasni Shamsuddin, where the principal component analysis should be below 3.0 and the unexplained variance should be less than 10%, this instrument has PCA of 4.2 and the unexplained variance is 13.4%. So that's why I cannot proceed with the differential item functioning. But accidentally, this reading actually revealed to us that the instrument could be examining or assessing other traits, not only or other skills, not only listening skills. But I will not discuss further on that because my priority here is to see if there is a possible threats to the result. Okay. Next one, I couldn't also conduct the test because for Shapiro-Wilk test, this data failed the normality test where the significance is below 0.05, which suggested that the data was actually normal. So I resorted to use non-parametric test, non-parametric test, which is Mann-Whitney-U test, and from Mann-Whitney test, the result suggests that there is a significant difference in terms of performance between these two groups. So this study would like to conclude that there could be threats to fairness which require further investigation. Since this is an exploratory study, just a discovery, so I cannot conclude for sure that there is a threat. But from the analysis conducted, there are few signs that threats are present in this instrument. So in the future, if this study is going to be conducted again, because like I said, this study involved students from my previous semester, so it's hard for me to get on hold of them to actually do further investigation on the instrument and also to actually interview them on what kind of difficulties that they are facing. Maybe in the future also, more technological insights or knowledge should be included in terms of the how what do we call that, the GUI for the interface. The interface for those who are using laptop could be different from the interface those who are using handheld gadget when it comes to listening tests. So in the future also, qualitative data could be obtained from the test taker, maybe in terms of interview to understand the difficulties that they faced during the test. So that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamarul Arifin Ahmad, for the informative presentation. Now, I would like to open for question and answer. Any questions?
Mr. Kamarul.
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think we could hear your voice very clearly. You must have been using a very expensive microphone. Okay. Did you check the items that could establish or could have created the second dimension in your test? Do you think the items is from a particular video, or are the items comprising the second dimension sort of randomly existing from from the various video material that you use?
Oh, okay. I didn't conduct different analysis in that sense, but what I can say is that For this study, I'm going to assume that it is random for the time being because I didn't conduct further investigation in that sense, Doctor.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, if no more questions, next, I thank you, Mr. Kamal Ahmad, for your
Thank you very
answer.
much.
Okay, now next, I would like to invite Ms. Roshafina with the topic Greatest Assessment Quality in Measuring Teachers' Competency in Classroom Assessment, Application of Many-Faceted Rush Model. Please welcome.
Hello, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good afternoon to all the lecturers, the presenters and participants. I'm Roshafinas binti Muhammad and today I would like to present my article titled Greatest Assessment Quality in Measuring Teachers' Competency in Classroom Assessment, Application of Many-Faceted Rush Model. I will start with the introduction. The multi-rater approach by using self-assessment and peer assessment methods raise issues regarding the reliability of the score obtained. In the multi-rater method, some ratees may be judged by severe raters and some will be judged by lenient raters. The analysis approach usually based on classical test theory approach, which is ideal if only one rater assesses all the ratees. In the manifested rush model, the conclusions on the ratee's ability are more accurate. Therefore, this article aims to show the potential of more precise and detailed raters assessment quality by using the manifested rush model. Next is the weaknesses of existing methods. Various methods have been widely used to determine the rater's consistency based on classical test theory approach. However, classical test theory approach has several limitations, such as it cannot systematically distinguish the raters. Furthermore, it also unable to detect if there is a possibility of guessing performed by the raters. And it also cannot determine the severity level of the raters. Some of the methods only involving two categories of an ordinal scale or only limited to assessments for dichotomous data. CTT approach only focusing on item suitability but not involving scale analysis. In addition, some of the methods are quite complex and complicated, making it difficult for the reader to accept and understand the interpretation. The research methodology. The research design for this study is a quantitative approach by using multi-rater method. The population of the ratee are mathematics teachers who serve in the government secondary schools in Selangor. The respondent involves were 68 raters to assess 27 ratees. Each ratee were rated by 4 raters. The instrument used consists of 56 items that are built based on 3 main constructs, which are knowledge in classroom assessment, skills in classroom assessment, and attitude towards classroom assessment. And each item was based was assessed based on 5-point Likert rating scale. Several sampling techniques have been used to determine the respondents, such as cluster sampling, simple random sampling, and purposive sampling. The collected data were analyzed by using many-facet Rush model to determine the construct validity, reliability, and Reuters consistency. This is the findings of reliability and construct validity. The reliability index are high and the separation index are also good. The significance value indicates that there is a significant difference to the Reuters severity level and high internal consistency by the Reuters. The two percentages that almost the same value indicates that the data meets the expectation by the Rush models. The percentage of variance explained by Rush measures is more than 40%, indicates that the instrument used has a very good unidimensionality. Sorry for my background sound. This is the right map of Reuters severity level. The position of Reuters 8 at the top of the map as the most severe rater, while Reuters 30 as the most lenient rater. Furthermore, 6 raters from the most lenient group were outliers because there were 2 lenient. As we can see here, most of the raters tended to be lenient, and there is a possibility this is because most of the raters being assessed are very good and have high ability. This is the fit statistics analysis findings. The data screening process showed that only 6 outliers and 7 misfit raters were detected. And the diverse demographic characteristics among misfit raters indicate there is no specific identity detected for misfit raters, and any rater can be a misfit rater. This is the summary of unexpected responses analysis findings. The number of unexpected responses detected was too small at only 1.65%, indicating that all raters had made a cautious and detailed assessment. Furthermore, rater 58 is less consistent because it has the highest frequency of unexpected responses. Furthermore, rater 58 was a fit rater. This shows that the findings of unexpected responses are not direct evidence that can determine the misfit rater. In addition, all of these items cause the raters to be confused when doing the judgment because they have a high frequency of unexpected responses compared to other items. This is the findings of bias interactions between rater and ratee. The total number of bias interactions between rater and ratee is very low at only 6.48%. And this suggests that the raters had made a consistent assessment and made fewer mistakes. All of the raters who have made bias assessment against ratee were fit raters. This also shows that a bias assessment does not cause the misfit rater, and even a fit rater may be biased in the assessment. The graph shows 8 misfit raters that shows bias and inconsistency in their judgment. For example, a rater 62 was severe when assessed ratee 25, but lenient when assessed ratee 24. Next is the discussion. The reliability and validity findings showed that it had a very good results and the raters were not homogeneous. The findings showed that many-facet Rush model could provide the researchers with detailed analysis compared to another measurement model. This study also suggested terminating 7 misfit raters and 6 outliers that can affect the measurement accuracy. Many-facet Rush model can also help researchers identify the raters' demographic information from each severity group. These advantages are essential to obtain a fair and precise assessment based on the rater's judgment. This study also found that gender, age, and position do not affect the rater's severity level when judging. The raters consistency analysis showed that the raters had a different severity level when judging, and empirical evidence on the analysis of the bias interaction. Lastly is the conclusion. The findings by using many-facet Rush model shows exciting results and comprehensive information on the consistency by the raters. This study also shows that measuring teachers' competency is not easy, but many-facet Rush model is an excellent tool to identify it. Many-facet Rush model produces more detailed information on the raters' quality and can improve the validity process. The study showed many-facet Rush model as an effective psychometric framework compared to CTT's method. The conclusion of this study shows that many-facet Rush model is more general and provides a detailed analysis by the raters assessment. That's all from me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roshafinas, for the informative presentation. Now I would like to open for question and answer. Any questions? Yes. Yes, Mr. Sunawan, you have questions? Mr. Sunawan, you have question? Okay, no questions? Okay, thank you again, Ms. Roshafinas. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Faiz Zakaria with the topic Validation of Narrow Traits from IPIP among Malaysian civil servants. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Still morning. Oh, good afternoon to all fellow participants and respected lecturers of TAPE Seminar 2022. Congratulations to the organizers for hosting or organizing this seminars, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be part of the seminar. Can you hear me? Can you hear clearly my voice and see my face?
Yes.
Right. So, okay. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. Okay, my name is Muhammad Faiz bin Haji Zakaria. I'm a PhD student from Institute for Advanced Studies, University Malaya. Okay. Maybe I try to share right now my screen. Oh my God. Can you see the screen? Not yet.
Still background on.
How should I share the screen? Okay, sorry. Can you see the screen right now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh my God. Okay, hold on. What should I do? Still cannot?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet. Because
Can
I...
you give me your slide so that I can present it on your behalf?
Oh, okay, okay, sure, Doctor. This is the problem. Hold on. I've give you the slide, Doctor. Have you received it?
Yes, I will present your slide.
Thank you very much. I'm really sorry for the technical error because from my computer is already presented, is already sharing the presentation. Okay, never mind. Okay, may I start now? So
shall we speak? Okay.
okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. While waiting for the slide, maybe I would little bit explain about my my presentation. So my topic is actually about the validation of narrow thread from IP among Malaysian civil servants. So actually there are numerous psychological instruments that can be used to assess personality, including those from the IP project, or IP is the International Personality Item Pools, a scientific collaboratory for the development and advanced measures of personality traits and other individual differences. Okay, portion from IP measures had been translated and validated in Malaysia with, I can say, unclear validity evidence. Maybe we can go to the third slide. Okay, so additionally, narrow trait from the broad 5 factors, as we know about Big Five, had not been examined in, especially in for my point of view, in the Malaysian civil servant context. Still, is not very much done by the research. So as part of the bigger study examining over indebtedness among civil servants, the study attempt to validate 11 narrow traits, which include 89 items. So back translation into Bahasa Melayu involve adapting the items to be sure to be culturally appropriate. So through expert validation, pre-testing, and survey among Malaysian civil servants. It was found that the narrow trait, albeit with removal of items, have a satisfactory internal consistency. And exploratory factors analysis based on the 134 civil servants provided evidence that the 11 narrow trait have satisfactory structural validity. So tentatively, as I said earlier, Bahasa Melayu version seems appropriate for assessing the personality of Malaysian civil servant. Okay, so I can say to measure personality trait, the items, as I said, adapt and modified from IPIP or International Personality Item Pools. So among others, in measuring 11 facets of 5-factor model with 89 items public domain inventor. So actually the IPIP itself covers in extensive construct of more than 3,000 items and more than 250 scales that have been built from the item. So from these 3,000 items, I extract only 89 items. Okay, so we can see whether it can be validated and done in terms of a Malaysian context. Okay, we can go to. All right, so okay, remain the same slide. Okay, to that, okay, on the you can see the numbers of the stages that have been involved in this process of study. So of course, on the first place to determine each construct. So the first phase include reviews, of course, the reviews of previous theories and studies on personality. So this phase is critical for gathering data for the purpose of developing construct related to the subject being studied. So I've conducted an online survey on the initial construct identify several others dimension that could be extracted through the relate construct. Following the identification and validation of construct and dimension through thematic analysis, so I've designed an instrument adapt from the previous research based on the selected construct and dimension. So the instrument of the studies, we focus only on 11 narrow trait under 5 dimension. So the instrument done by using electronic surveys using Google Form. Okay, in terms of phase and content validity, expert to conduct phase are selected based on 2 criteria: experience in developing psychological instrument, psychometric and psychological testing, and being directly involved in the practice of expertise in psychology of more than 5 years. So following the phase validation of the instrument, a few improvement were made based on the advice of the expert consult and the usage of appropriate terms of the instruments. Okay, so as I said, expert panel was formed to make quantitative and qualitative judgment on instrument item after organizing a translation committee of 2 professional translators and selecting 5 experts. Okay, including content expert, instrument developer expert, and psychological expert. So altogether 5 experts. All right. And finally, of course, the psychometric properties of all items of the instrument were measured after a series of translation, adaptation, expert content validation, and CVR or content validity ratios done by expert, and quantification of EFA. And 3 different types of analysis such as item analysis, factor analysis, analysis of facet reliabilities were performed in this study. So basically 4 on the expert phase, 4 of 109 instrument items were eliminated in the first round of judging. This removed item had a CVR content validity ratio less than 0.6. So, which according to expert numbers of study, which were 5, numerical values of low sheet table should be more than 0.6 lah. Okay. We also include before can we back to previous slide? Okay. Before that, we also include in this phase of study pre-test, which also involve 10 respondents, pilot test, 134 samples among Malaysian civil servants. And of course, as I said, to analyze the data, so we use exploratory factor analysis. So in terms of pre-testing, this pre-testing may have already identify some confused or sensitive item as well as other problematic areas of the instrument. Following this preliminary check, I had to perform a trial of pre-test to ensure that the survey respondent understand the theme of the instrument of each items. So the pre-test involved a total of, as I said, 10 respondents from various ministries. So they has been provided form containing all of the item in the study. So overall, they all understood what each item mean and concurred that it can be used in the study. Okay, in terms of pilot study, pilot test use instrument, the question had been reviewed, validated by expert on the second stage. Okay, small scale preliminary study used to be measuring equipment, strengthen research skill, estimate the study implementation duration, and so on. So I think it is necessary to test the questionnaire items to validate and examine the instrument for reliability and choose the best items. So in this study, I have distributed a set of questionnaires using Google Form to 200, and I have received 134 sets of questionnaires, or 134 sets of questions were responded. So, okay, next, Doctor. Okay, so this is the result in terms of each construct of a Chromebook. I found that overall, I can say we have seen the result is 0.8. Okay, 0.8, and each of narrow construct more than 0.7. Okay, next. Okay, so the pilot study data were analyzed using SPSS version software and Jamovi 2.0, which is based on the EFA measurement model in terms of reliability, significant values, factor loading, and alpha Chromebook. Okay, so of course, as shown on the table, we can say most of the items, most of the construct has achieved satisfactory score of the alpha Chromebook. Okay, in terms of next. Maybe I can show the next. Okay, in terms of item retain, deletion, and reliability of the item. So most of the result I've conclude in this table. So as I said, Jamovi software is used in this phase to investigate the factorial structure of the big 5 factor, which consists of 11 facets, and exploratory factors analysis with oblique rotation or obliquing was performed on all 105 items of the instrument. So the list of values of ballot test of the sphericity table indicate that the correlation structure is adequate for the factor analysis. And the factor solution was found to be the best fit of the data maximum likelihood for analysis with cut-off point 0.4 and Kaiser criterion of eigenvalues greater than 1. So except from based on the table we can see except action and trust score at 0.693 and trust is 0.620. So overall KMO values of each construct are 0.7, which is desired. Okay, so if the value is less than 0.5, on the other hand, are generally regardless as unacceptable, as cited from Charles 2009 or Hare et al. 2010, and also Kaiser 1974. So we can say it's indicating that the correlation metric is not factorable. Okay, in addition of each underweight reliabilities, the accuracy of stability of measuring instrument in measuring a concept of study measured by reliability. So based on the data and the analysis of the pilot study, the research I conclude that I determined that 16 items did not match the study measurement standard and should be removed. So I've shared on the previous table. So okay, so as we can say the result of the study, we have identified 11 construct, and the expert translation committee has come with the conclusion that most of the items are eligible to measure what we want to measure. So as I can say the current study provide quantity index for content validity in a new adapt instrument and discuss them during the construction of psychometric psychometry of IP 5-factor and narrow trip measurement instrument.
One more minute, yeah.
Okay. As the conclusion, maybe last slide. Last slide. Next. Yes. Okay. So of course, some limitation of content validity study should be acknowledged. Expert feedback is subjective. Consequently, the study is prone to expert bias. If the content domain is not properly identified, this type of study may not identify content was omitted from the instrument. However, experts are being invited to identify other items for instrument that could help to mitigate the limitation. So essentially, the validation process of the instruments was completed successfully by referring to the result as I previously shared. So validation is lengthy procedure, and the first stage should be to investigate the content validity. The following study should be directed reliability assess, construct validity via factor analysis, criterion related validity. So meanwhile, we demonstrate that while content validity is subjective process, it is possible to objectively assess it. So understanding content validity is important for practitioner group and researchers because it allows them to determine whether the instrument that used for the studies are appropriate for the construct, population, under study, and socio-cultural context in which the study is conducted. Okay, so I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.